right, chat, we have another topic that I want to cover for you guys today, and it's the last topic of today's stream that we're going to take a look at. This is actually something that I have to give a shout out to a fellow content creator who's a friend of the channel, whose content I really enjoy lately, and that is a content creator known as Demon Mama. Let's give a round of applause for Demon Mama. I actually was watching live while Demon Mama covered this particular topic, and they also put out a video on the topic as well. And so when I saw this, I decided this is something that I think is really important to kind of discuss from my perspective as well, and kind of give my own thoughts to my own audience. And so we're going to cover this topic. And this centers around ZeniMax Media / Bethesda, the popular game studio that develops great games like, you know, the Elder Scrolls series, the Fallout games, etc., etc. They do really popular titles that a lot of gamers around the world enjoy, myself included. I'm a big fan of the Elder Scrolls franchise. Not so much the modern Fallout games. I know a lot of people will shame me for that. I don't know, they just don't do it for me. But in any case, a lot of people really enjoy their games, but apparently there was unfortunately a trans employee who had a not so pleasant experience working with the company. And they put out a video. I'm actually a little bit late to the party on this one. They put out a video 4 weeks ago detailing their trans experience at ZeniMax and Bethesda. Okay, I'm not going to watch this video in particular because this video is 4 hours long, chat, but I will post a link in the chat if you guys want to check out this particular video for yourself. But there was another content creator who I also want to shout out, Stephanie Sterling, who did a really good job kind of breaking down this situation in a much shorter video. So we're going to react to this video. We're going to give our thoughts as we go along. So chat, without further ado,
play that shit!
Here we go.
Who's looking forward to that there Starfield? I am. I love video games. Hi there. I'm James.
Am I the only person who isn't overly hyped for Starfield? Maybe it's just because I'm getting older and I prefer to play like older games or like retro inspired games, but I have no interest whatsoever in Starfield. I'm very, very picky when it comes to modern games and like the kind of games I want to play and invest my money and my time into. And Starfield just isn't one of them. John in the chat says, what even is Starfield? I don't know, because I genuinely don't care. I think the only game I'm looking forward to from Bethesda is the next Elder Scrolls game. I genuinely don't give a shit about Starfield. I think I'm the only person I know that doesn't care.
Stephanie Sterling, and I love video games. Do you love video games? That's awesome, because I love video games too. We're going to talk about a video game, which I love.
Okay, surprisingly, there's a lot of people in the chat who, just like me, don't give a shit about Starfield. Okay, I don't feel so alone anymore. Fair enough.
Love to do, and it's a video game that I'm just sure I'm going to love because it's a video game, and I love video games. This isn't about ZeniMax and Bethesda mistreating a worker. It's just about video games.
Oh boy.
I worked at ZeniMax Online Studios from October of 2018 to the beginning of May 2022. In January of 2021, my boss outed me as a trans woman. Eventually it led to ending my career there.
I gotta tell you.
Oh boy. That's not good. So, you know, coming out as like gay or trans or anything like that is something that's like a very sensitive and delicate issue to deal with. In fact, in some cases, you know, if you're gay or you're trans or you're bi or something like that, some people will never come out because of the fact that it's such a difficult situation to deal with, right? So to hear that this trans person didn't get to make that decision for themselves and they were outed by their employer, I'm sorry, chat, but that's a pretty big yikes for me.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit!
If there's one game I'm hype for more than anything else right now, it's Starfield, the hit upcoming game from Bethesda that's going to be critically acclaimed and get top review scores, whether it's good or not, which is how you know it's gonna be good. You could say I've got Star Fever!
Again, I made it pretty clear during our initial private conversation that I needed this to be casual and within my control. Elphaba reveals my new work photo to the team via sharing her screen.
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That's not... So what do we have? Let's actually read the message here. Did you want a small meetup today? Let me know. I can book a 15-minute. No problem. I'll let you know soon. But no worries either way. Thanks. Actually, I'm fine. I'll be on cam for the retro on Monday. Are you planning to let people know, especially if you look dramatically different? Also, that is all creative services team, video, graphics. My pick has not updated for everyone yet. It'll take 24 to 48 hours to update on everyone's comp. Even if you can see it, not everyone on the team can, and it just popped up.
Outing me during the last few minutes of our morning scrum. I'm shocked. Those who are participating in the meeting began talking about my new picture after it was revealed. Elphaba ends the morning scrum before I have the opportunity to say anything at all. I was forced to come out via text chat, very awkwardly, and in no way how I had imagined it.
I'll just say something in Slack. It's no big deal. In respect for you, I'm trying to soften the transition moment. Shoot, I changed my background and people react. Lol, email is good too. That way people can respond privately to you. Just thought. So my understanding of what happened here is essentially they had planned to have their normal meeting on the job. And during that meeting, she was going to reveal to her coworkers that she had transitioned and, share like her new self with her teammates, right? This is something that, like I said, is a very delicate situation that should be handled in whatever way the person coming out is comfortable handling it. And it was not handled that way. Instead, a picture was shown when they weren't ready to, reveal that they had transitioned. And it was just kind of brushed off as like an oopsie or something like that, which is, that's not good.
I was devastated for the rest of that day.
After all the delays, the waiting, it feels like Todd Howard's Magnus Anus is at last a real, tangible thing that's actually going to come out. All the video game news sites are talking about it, as it's easily the biggest and most important thing involving Bethesda Softworks that's happened in the past week. I mean, has anything else of note happened?
Crystal Star Discussions in the chat says, and that's one of the big reasons it scares me to come out as trans in real life due to all the life issues that can come with it, especially when Republicans can potentially start hunting you down. Yeah, some of the legislation that's going on right now in regards to trans people is really fucking insane. But I could totally understand that. As I mentioned before, there are some people who may never publicly come out, whether they're trans, whether they're gay, whether they're bi. They may never come out because of a lot of the social stigma that's still kind of attached to some of those things. You would think in 2023, people would be a little bit more accepting of that stuff, but there's still a lot of people who aren't, unfortunately. So there's plenty of people who will never come out because of how difficult of a situation it is to do so. You know what I mean? So yeah, the fact that this was handled so poorly is not great, obviously.
Can't think of anything, no. Just in the past 24 hours, the top games media outlets have been a buzz with Starfield coverage, and since we've been taking a lighter, less depressing, far more apolitical tone on the Jimquisition this year, I thought it'd be edifying to look over this avalanche of hot goss and juicy news to aid me in my goal of demonstrating exactly why Starfield will be the biggest game of a currently undetermined period of time. Let's start with the absolutely wild sales predictions that Microsoft had for Starfield, because not only is it a great indicator of just how massive this game is expected to be, it seriously does feed into a point I've made many times about the often absurdly over-optimistic sales expectations that publishers have for their games. The kind of expectations that see companies routinely express disappointment in a title selling below expectations when they only sell several bloody million copies. So yeah, Microsoft expected Starfield to sell over 10 million copies, not across all platforms but on PS5 alone. In a 4-hour video, Leona Farron, a former developer for The Elder Scrolls Online, provided a highly detailed account with receipts detailing a pattern of shockingly transphobic behaviour at Bethesda Softworks.
Yikes.
Now, in fairness to Microsoft, a game selling over 10 million copies even on a single platform is far from unheard of. In fact, The Last of Us Part 2, a PS5 exclusive, has indeed shifted 10 mil. Perhaps the more shocking revelation in retrospect is the fact that Microsoft still elected to cancel the PS5 version in spite of its prediction after the Xbox maker acquired Bethesda in 2022. Not quite sure if it's as shocking as, say, holding a trans employee's medical care hostage to pressure her into leaving the company and signing away the possibility of hitting it with a discrimination lawsuit on the way out.
Oh boy. That did you hear that, chat? Let me bring that back up again.
Or if it's as shocking as, say, holding a trans employee's medical care hostage to pressure her into leaving the company and signing away the possibility of hitting it with a discrimination lawsuit on the way out.
That's pretty yikes, chat. That holding her healthcare hostage? Forcing her to sign a document that says she can't pursue discrimination legal action? I have a feeling things are about to get really dicey, chat.
I can come back to work tomorrow. I got everything resolved, but I wanted to see what you would want me to do.
So they said, I had requested a week off to focus on my personal life and doctor's appointments. The upcoming recorded conversation is taking place during a Wednesday afternoon after I had reached out to Alphaba to let her know that I was able to return to work early. The products I was previously assigned were given to my teammates, and so I am asking for clarification on what I should be working on when I return. Instead, I get persuaded to not return to work.
But I also saw that all my products were shifted onto.
We did a sanity check today because it was the middle of the week. You had said you were going to be out all week, so we needed a plan for that accordingly because of things just being a bit kind of sporadic, like of.
Please keep in mind, she is telling me that my PTO is sporadic during a call where I am saying that I am able to return to work early. I had also given a proper 2 weeks notice for the PTO that I was currently taking during this call.
When you're taking time off, for you especially, it's pretty important to get those products hooked up.
MS believes it can recuperate any potential losses from Starfield's Xbox exclusivity via game.
So it's almost like they're like scolding her for using like her time off and stuff like that. These are things that like in companies like this, these are part of your benefits. Like you have a certain amount of time that you can use for like sick time. Sometimes you'll have a certain amount of time you can use for like vacation time and different purposes and stuff like that. And she's being scolded for using that time. Something that probably any other employee would not be scolded for doing. And the funny thing about it is, as she points out there, she's actually indicating to them that, hey, I can return to work earlier than planned. And they're giving her a hard time for that, which doesn't make any sense at all.
Game Pass subscriptions and a subsequent increase in Xbox sales. The decision to cut the PS5 out of Starfield's release has been a controversial one, of course, but its developer has since revealed to be a big believer in exclusivity, as it demonstrated when it kept Leona exclusive to her own set of duties away from the rest of the Elder Scrolls Online team. So committed to exclusivity, it made the tools Leona needed to do her job exclusive to her old pre-transition.
What is this? IT issues not only left her dead name in the system, but also locked her out of accounts. Farron says this caused her to fall behind on work as her manager would need to help her log in on most days. The manager tells her she would be better off just sticking with her dead name. Chat. They're claiming that IT couldn't change her account from her dead name to her name she uses now after transition. Chat, anybody who's worked in IT knows that this is not a difficult task to complete. It is not difficult to change someone's name in their account. This is a very simple process. Instead, they're like, why don't you just stick with your dead name? What? Gayfesh in the chat says, speaking as someone who used to work IT, that's bullshit. I agree. I 100% agree.
name, consequently locking her out of accounts for months and undermining her ability to perform her duties. Anyway, back to the big news of the week. The Starfields. These delectable details regarding Starfield came out thanks to the FTC case against Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, another company with a history of prejudice.
Spooky Kitten says they're doing it on purpose. I mean, yeah, it seems that way because anybody who's ever done any work in IT can tell you, like, literally a name change is a very common thing. There's many reasons why someone might get a name change. Maybe it's for legal reasons. Maybe it's for personal reasons. They just decide they want to change their name. The most common one, people getting married. People change their names because they got married. Like, there's so many valid reasons that people have for wanting to change their name. And can you imagine if the company you work for wasn't capable of changing your user account in their database just because you changed your name? Like, that's insane. And that's something that makes no sense whatsoever. So the fact that they refused to change her name from her dead name after she had transitioned, that's completely unacceptable. There's no reason whatsoever for that to be an issue, but they made it one anyway. Gayfesh says, marriages was the most common name change at my job. Yes, I see this all the time, like in various different companies where like name changes are extremely common, especially for marriage, and it's not an issue to change that shit on your username. It's just not.
And discriminatory behaviour towards its employees. What is it with Microsoft and picking up scumbags? They're as bad as me when I've been drinking and desperate in Leeds city centre.
If all I had, it's a new process, so it's not like I'm doing something that comes now.
What is this? I get told I need to be given stricter work expectations due to FMLA. My manager assumes that my FMLA is for the surgeries, and after probing for details as to why I'm submitting FMLA forms to HR, it gets suggested that my role be downgraded from mid-level to an associate due to upcoming medical leave.
Natural. I'm trying to be innovative constantly.
I can see that, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely part of this position. You are not the...
I am communicating a specific example of when I had blood drawn and how it affected my work energy, and she is making it sound like I've given up on my job. So my understanding is they had to get blood drawn for like a medical procedure, and if you've ever gotten like a significant amount of blood drawn, like you're a little bit woozy or a little bit lightheaded. Oftentimes when you get that much blood drawn, your doctor might tell you, take it easy for the next few hours or something like that. Don't do anything super strenuous or whatever. It's a pretty common thing when you've gotten blood drawn. And they're making it sound like it's this horrible thing that they had to get blood drawn, and the doctor told them, take it easy for a little bit for the next, few hours or so. Like, that's not unreasonable at all. Absolutely not unreasonable at all. And as Gayfest in the chat says, that is blatant discrimination. You cannot discriminate based on FMLA. Yeah, that's true. After this conversation, whenever I needed to use PTO for a doctor's appointment, it was often equated with burnout and not being made for that kind of job. Yikes. So like literally belittling them for using the benefits that they have as part of that job.
The only one who's felt like this. In
benefits they get for part of that job and benefits that they have every right as an employee to use.
The career of this type of position, by no means. Like, some people are built for this. That's how their personality is. Others can do it for 2 to 3 years, and then it's the same thing.
Literally telling her, maybe you're not cut out for this job because she took some time off for doctor's appointments and things of that nature. Unfucking believable, chat. Unfucking believable.
It's actually the same type of comments you have.
Steph's fun fact, many trans people find that after they come out at their workplaces, their public transition oddly coincides with management's sudden dissatisfaction with their work, as previously good performance is no longer good enough. Of course, this can easily be argued as mere coincidence, not at all a sign of prejudice, but it has historically occurred with such frequency that anybody who knows the pattern understands exactly what it is leading to. And this isn't specifically for like trans people either. Sometimes this will also happen with gay people that come out as well. Like they may be treated differently in the workplace. And it's really unfortunate that these things happen, but they do happen. Even today in current year 2023, these things still happen. And it's unacceptable. There should be no discrimination whatsoever in the workplace, but these things still take place in the workplace.
Balance is needed, right? Like, if you are continuing to be on this team, we've got to find balance somehow. If you are overwhelmed with the amount of, doctor's appointments, or if they're asking you to not do something for 3 to 4 hours,
I've just to take the time.
You may already be familiar with the concept. It's a little something called plausible deniability. Again, like it's not an uncommon thing to have a certain type of medical procedure and have a doctor tell you, hey, I'm going to give you this note that like you have to be off for the next few days because, of this medical procedure and what it entails. Or maybe you need to be off. Maybe you need to be put on light duty at work for a while because of this medical procedure or something like that. That's not an unreasonable thing. And it's something that happens actually very frequently, depending on the medical procedure you've had. So for them to act like she's being, quote, overwhelmed with her job duties because a doctor said, hey, take it easy for a few hours. What the fuck are you talking about? This isn't about somebody being overwhelmed at their job. This is about them being given a directive by their healthcare professional. And you are questioning that directive because you want to make it seem like they're not equipped to handle their job. Because you're clearly looking for an excuse, in my opinion, to push that person out. And for what reason? For what reason? My understanding of the situation is this person wasn't being treated differently until they transitioned and came out. Why? Why is that the case? It's unacceptable.
Which is not.
Yes.
Going to affect my career. Yeah.
Hey Ginger, how's it going?
Position, like a different.
I needed to be able to discuss with my team supervisor the time off that I would need in the near future for my transition-related medical care. I got told that my expectations will need to be adjusted due to my upcoming FMLA leave, and it also gets suggested that my role be downgraded from mid-level to an associate. Jeez.
Different role.
So it really does feel like they were slowly trying to push her out. Slowly trying to push her out. After she came out as trans, they were slowly trying to push her out of the position. Unbelievable.
Not that I want you off the team. Like, I chose people to be on this team for a reason. You are always, having to go to the doctors frequently, or they're asking you to not do something for a few hours or whatever, is not good.
What other important Bethesda stories have been covered this week? Oh, here's one. Fans are concerned that the game's only going to run at 30 frames per second on consoles. If there's one thing that unites the gaming community more than anything else, it's low frame rates. There's nothing more outrageous in gamer circles, not even management outing someone's transition to her co-workers and protesting her right to change her name, insisting she stick with her dead name to avoid the technical issues she'd been having with logging in. I mean, that's trivial compared to a computer game not running at 60 FPS, isn't it? God, I know I'm being sarcastic, but I also know the dwindling percentage of hardcore gamers that still watch me all just nodded in agreement, and it makes me want to be sick into a little bag.
Jeez. You canceled the team meeting. I told you I was going to come out of the closet the same day of the meeting, and then I was pressured over Slack to quickly find an alternative because everyone had seen my new work photo. This was devastating.
Yes.
I don't know how else to put that.
I don't understand.
The whole thing makes...
Jeez. This person is literally telling you, hey, you outed me at a time when I wasn't comfortable to be outed. We had originally planned a meeting where I was going to discuss with my teammates, yo, I'm trans, this is who I am, here's my new pronouns, here's my new name, etc., right? We had planned a meeting where that was going to happen. You canceled the meeting and then decided that you were just going to out me on your own without even discussing it with me prior. And I'm trying to tell you that was not a good thing. That did not make me feel comfortable, and that was unacceptable. And your response to that is, I don't understand. It sounds to me like at the very least, whoever this employee is needs to have some serious sensitivity training, because that was not okay. And for you to just respond to someone's genuine concerns about that with, oh, I don't understand. Unfucking unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
Makes me sick, really. The game industry, I mean, just in general. You know, I'm really trying to avoid this series being the depression fest it turned into a few years ago, following the constant stream of stories outlining abuse and discrimination that seemingly riddles the video games business at every fucking level. I even hit upon a revelation recently. Ever since my video on the
What the fuck? They pressured her into coming out when she wasn't ready, and they want to dare say, I don't understand why you're upset. Yeah, exactly. As I said before, they had initially planned a meeting where, as a small part of the meeting, they were going to allow this employee to come out to their employees, their teammates rather. And they canceled that meeting. And as part of what they call a scrum, which I guess is like a mini meeting or something, like a pre-meeting to the full meeting. I'm not really sure. But as a part of that meeting, they just like showed their picture, like, hey, just letting you guys know your teammate has come out as trans. And that was completely unplanned. That was not something that like, the person who was transitioning agreed to or anything like that. It just happened. And then they're just like startled, like, oh shit, like I didn't know they were going to do that. And like at one point we saw earlier where they said that they did that to try and quote, soften the blow. You outed somebody without their knowledge that you were going to do it or their consent to do so. How does that soften the blow? It doesn't make any sense.
The historical context of the term JRPG, I've, just not wanted to talk about the usual grim misery of games. Shaking my head in fucking despair every week at layoffs, executives being slimeballs.
Catherine in the chat says, I'm so disappointed. This is one of my favorite gaming companies, but now I'm not so sure. There has been so much disappointment from the game industry over the course of the past several years, like the past few years or so. Well, we've got like abuse scandals that have come out of Riot Games. There's obviously the huge atrocities that have come out of Activision Blizzard. Like you could look at Ubisoft is another one. There are so many companies in the games industry that have had horrible fucking shit come out against them. And this incident is just the latest. Who knows what else is going to come out of the games industry? The games industry is starting to look just as horrible as the shit that came out during the Me Too movement in fucking Hollywood, chat. It just seems like any entertainment industry is full of like really fucked up people doing really fucked up things. And this is just one of the latest examples that we're finding out about.
The corrupt excesses of the economic system and systemic abuse is not what I want my job to be anymore. This year has seen some of the most fun I've had in years making videos on more varied and interesting subject matter. Like when I looked at the news the other week and saw multiple layoff stories, I felt a pit in my stomach because it felt like I had to go back to the topics.
Paul in the chat says, Scrum is like a team huddle, normally standing near desks. You have people not sit to keep it quick. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
That bring me and the audience no joy. Back to the videos that are gross and miserable and neither fun nor edifying. I don't want to go back. Of course, people don't want to be laid off either, and their situation is far more serious than some comfy little content creator doing a cry because they gotta do something they don't like on their silly little video series. And trans people don't want to be outed, to have managers glibly speak their dead name and demand its continued use, to be excluded and told they're—
I still can't get over that ridiculous excuse. I can't get over that ridiculous excuse of, hey, it's really difficult to change your name on your user account to log into our computer systems. So can you just like continue using your dead name? Something that's going to cause you significant gender dysphoria? Just use your dead name. It's not that big of a deal, right? Unfucking acceptable.
reliability and that their new identity is causing chaos. Oh, and I think you'll find that now that we've dropped all sarcasm, it's time. It's time to do something. You know what it is. Oh my yes.
It's time to shit on Bethesda. Oh boy. Dragon Knight in the chat says, this is so gross. Trans people shouldn't have to use their dead name if they choose not to. I mean, like, most choose not to, right? Like, I don't, yeah, it's a really fucked up thing to force someone to do. Just like, oh, it makes our job easier to not have to change your name in our database. So let's just like not, like, that's silly. It's such an easy process. There's no excuse for it. If it's not malicious, at the very least, it's major laziness. I handle initiating those types of changes with outside IT support, and it's just a hassle, but I would never push back, especially like this. I mean, even if it is something that's a little bit of a, oh man, we got to go back and change this account. Oh, that's kind of a pain. Even so, like, there's no excuse not to. There's no excuse not to. Absolutely.
There's something quite poetic about that clip being pre-Stephanie.
Your focus is everywhere else but on the job.
It's definitely not.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know.
This person sounds like super condescending. Again, like, it literally seems like they're giving them like a hard time just for using the sick time that they have access to as part of the job. Like,
and you being concerned about creating another chaotic situation, that's not for you to be concerned about.
I created a chaotic situation. How? By updating my name. Oh my, this is about the name change? They referred to her requesting that they remove her dead name from her account as a chaotic situation? Well, yes, this is what Alfalba believes. This is soon confirmed in the next couple of days during a retro meeting wherein my name change was brought up as a technical issue that I had created. Oh my. Are their IT staff incompetent? Is that what's going on here? They have an IT staff full of incompetent people? Because there's no reason that this shouldn't be a simple process to just change a name on a user account. A chaotic situation that they... Wow.
My job is to hear...
Like, all the time that they wasted on this shit, they could have, taken maybe 10 minutes, probably not even that, to just change the fucking name!
Be here to clear that chaos. And no matter what that means, that's what my job is.
Sheep the Vampire in the chat says, imagine fellow trans people, we are technical difficulties. Oh, that... It sounds so much worse when you put it that way. It genuinely sounds so much worse when you put it that way. Spooky Kitten says, how lazy is the IT department? Apparently very fucking lazy. Either that or this person just wants to make an issue where there isn't one.
It's
Oswald.
job. It's HR. It's IT. It's to unblock you so you can do your job.
One always has to be careful when reporting on allegations, even ones as detailed and backed up as the charges Leona has levelled against Bethesda. Believing victims is the prime directive. But any reporter must still employ their own judgment when a situation involves folks they don't personally know. As we found out last year with the lengthy saga of Helena Taylor and Platinum Games, sometimes...
Archivist in the chat says, not really a good excuse when you have to do the same thing when people get married and change their last name. Yeah, exactly. This is a common thing. This is a very, very, very common thing. And there is no excuse to make a big deal out of it. None whatsoever. You know, there were cases where certain systems needed their own accounts and name changes didn't function properly with those systems. So you know what we did? We made a new account. Yeah, there are ways around those problems. And it just seems like they didn't want to make any attempt to resolve this at all.
Sometimes a case is more complex than it first appears, and should one choose to pick a side, as I most certainly have in this case, you gotta accept you're sticking your neck out on trust. Having said that, I'll tell you what's made this particular situation utterly compelling. The idea something as simple as a person changing their name could throw Bethesda into anarchy is one of the most believable allegations I've ever heard in my life, because Bethesda is just that bloody incompetent. The company couldn't even handle giving people canvas fucking bags. Of course it tracks that they can't handle the technicalities of a name change.
How many people remember all the horrible shit that happened as a result of like the Fallout 76 like meltdown? Like the game, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad enough already that the game was like broken in its like early states of release or whatever. But they had like all these controversies associated with it. There was like I want to say there was like a customer complaint system that had like customers' private confidential data in it, that like the way it was coded, it literally like doxed every customer they had that filed a complaint, either related to the game or like recalls associated with the game and stuff like that. Bethesda literally doxed a bunch of their customers. Like there is so much shit, like anything that can go wrong will go wrong with Bethesda. And it has in the past.
It's the kind of thick-headed, bafflingly stupid display.
Momo says Fallout 76 meltdown. Nice one, Tipster. I didn't even try that intentionally. That just happened naturally. That was not an attempt at a pun. It just happened.
Of terminal inability that I've come to expect from a company so thoroughly run by imbeciles, I could dedicate an entire video solely to their ineptitude, which I have already done. Obviously. People change names all the time. It's hardly surprising that Bethesda wouldn't know how to deal with it. I mean, Jesus.
Sheep the Vampire says, God, Tipster, you have a point. They are incompetent. It really challenges them to change first name and gender. Yeah. Oh my God.
Carpet munching Christ. What does this company do when someone gets married? Do their computers just explode? The absolute state of that legendarily ineffectual company never ceases to amaze me, despite the consistent demonstration that Bethesda's a complete rectal circus. For sanity...
Spooky Kid in the chat says, how is that company even functioning? Well, if Twitter is somehow... or excuse me, sorry. I dead named X. If X is somehow able to still function with Elon Musk at the helm, I'm convinced any company is able to function even with the most incompetent staff. Just saying.
For his sake, I've tried to keep this video from going too dark. I laid out in my Hogwarts video exactly how fucking terrifying it is to be a trans person right now, and I don't want to put me or you through that again. You know, I really wanted to talk about fucking Exo Primal this week. I have shit to say about it. Instead, we have the fucking ghoulish concept of a company holding somebody's medical care to ransom in order to kick her off the job because they were too fucking stupid to understand simple concepts like name changes or new photo IDs. God, the sheer farce of it would be funny if it wasn't so fucking ghastly. But still, Starfield's publicity machine has kicked into high gear, so expect any of the company's misdeeds to be conveniently swept under the same rug that's covering Activision's abuse of its employees, Ubisoft's protection of sex abusers, the industry's crunch...
I mean, it's true, too, because when I initially looked into this, like, there weren't a whole lot of articles that covered this situation. As Stephanie Sterling is saying here, more people are preoccupied with, like, Starfield. Like they're more preoccupied in like the current development cycle of the game and whether it's going to make its next big release date or anything like that. That's what the media in terms of gaming news is concerned about. Very, very, very few media outlets reported on the horrible shit they did to this poor trans employee.
Financial exploitation of disabled people and... Sorry, should I just shut up and let you be hyped for Starfield? Okay, sorry, I'll do that.
So in September of 2021, I contacted Bethesda Corporate because I felt like the studio's human resources was not taking my issues seriously. I shared with them everything that I shared with you, the recordings, screenshots, everything. They responded by viewing me as a liability that they needed to get rid of. And it was also at this time that I was put under management with Oswald. Thankfully, because under his management, I blew it the fuck up. I wasn't being blocked anymore. And my velocity shot through the roof because I was working for someone who didn't care that I was trans. So I had my surgeries scheduled for March of 2022 and July of 2022. My surgeries were going to come in 2 parts. I needed to have both surgeries done. I couldn't have the first surgery without the second one. It would have been very unhealthy for me. They would have been leaving screwdrivers in me and shit. They need those back. But it would have been putting my health at risk to have one surgery and not the other. I needed both. But then in January of 2022, I was put under a performance improvement plan because Alphaba was allowed by corporate to do my yearly review.
They let the person who's been giving her a hard time all this time do her performance review. The level of incompetence with these people. Someone who is very clearly giving her a hard time over nothing. Absolutely nothing. They let that person do her performance review and put negative marks on her work history.
And she gave me straight ones. Across the board. She said I didn't...
So they were very clearly trying to push her out. Very clearly trying to push her out of the company. They're not even trying to hide it at this point.
My work. She said that I was rude in meetings, that I was made inappropriate comments in public workplace forums. Dozens of vague statements that were criticisms of my work ethic and character. All of which were lies. But corporate saw me as a liability. So that didn't matter. It was a way to get rid of me.
Yeah.
In the same conversation, I was pulled into a group meeting with human resources that included ZeniMax Online Studios Human Resources and Bethesda Corporate's Human Resources. And they extended to me a one-time offer wherein if I agreed to resign and release them from any potential discrimination lawsuit, they would pay for my COBRA premiums. They were holding my surgeries hostage to coerce me into resigning. I refused.
Unbelievable, chat. Genuinely unbelievable. Instead of addressing the genuine concerns she had for how she was being treated in the workplace, they viewed her as a liability, pressured her to resign from the company, and they literally used the surgeries that she needed to get done, surgery she desperately needed, as a sort of bargaining chip to get her to agree to their demands. Resign from the company, sign this waiver that says that you won't sue us for discrimination, and we'll help you pay for your medical needs. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
The video, as I mentioned, is 4 hours long. There was no way I could do justice to it in a Jimquisition length video, but it paints a very clear picture. If you recognize the patterns, if you recognize the signs, if you've seen this before or you've heard enough of the stories. Now, to a lot of cis people, I fully understand that to some of them, what they've seen in this video, even what some of them may see in the entire 4 hours, would have them shrug and say they don't see the problem. But I've experienced it myself in this job, and almost every trans person I know has experienced it. The sudden change in perception, the sudden change in attitude, the sudden change with regards to your apparent performance. This happens so much. And as I say, I've experienced it myself. I've talked about it on this show. The people that suddenly thought I was being too rude in my game reviews, the people that saw me do things that I've done for the entirety of the 10-year career I've had in these videos. They've seen me do things and they've now taken them as signs that I'm having some sort of mental breakdown. We know what this looks like. And to some cis people, to a lot of them, because they've never experienced it and they've never had cause to see the patterns, it's invisible to them. It's just invisible. But that pattern is there. And I like to think that a lot of you, if you actually do see what's going on, if you actually do watch that video, or hopefully this video's done enough, because I think the most telling part...
Sheep the Vampire in the chat says she is right for trans people. That feels like a World War I flashback. Yeah, and it's one of those things that, you know, like, I'm someone who's cisgender, obviously, so I've never had to experience these kind of things. But they do happen. This is exactly why coming out is something that needs to be handled extremely delicately, because these things do happen. And so the fact that not only was this employee treated so poorly after their transition, and not only was the way that this employee was outed to their coworkers absolutely unacceptable, these are exactly the kind of things that trans people worry about having to deal with every single day. And the way that Bethesda as a company and as a corporate entity handled this is absolutely... There's no excuse for it. No excuse for it whatsoever.
Of all of this was that one clip I posted where Leona tried to explain why outing her the way she was outed had devastated her, and that manager just said, "I don't understand."
Like I said, that person really needs some serious sensitivity training, because either they're just really ignorant to why this is an issue, or they're blatantly malicious. And based on the way this entire situation played out, I'm kind of inclined to believe the latter, honestly.
And that's a real problem, because people don't understand. And because they don't see that there's an issue, they don't believe there's an issue there. And you know what? Some of this isn't necessarily transphobic, born of hatred. It's not.
Gayfest in the chat says, giving all ones on a performance review is straight malicious. Yeah. Given all the circumstances of how this situation played out, I'm pretty convinced that this was something malicious. This isn't just ignorance. This is them being malicious. They were literally trying everything they could to push her out of the company. And they did that.
Not hateful transphobia. It's seeing someone change and assuming that that impacts their convenience and their comfort, and the fact that they have to change, see someone differently, treat someone differently, when they really don't. It makes me think, and I've thought about this for a while, it makes me think about the way, say, vegans are treated. Because they're treated like they're whiny and an inconvenience, and they complain and they force their beliefs onto other people, when most of the ones I know don't do that. Instead, they're treated as an inconvenience because people that aren't vegan have to think about vegan options, have to think about offering something a little bit different than what they're used to. So they project that, they project their lack of understanding, and they project their issue with a change onto someone else. And it's, I noticed this like, so many years ago now. It's not just like something like veganism, it extends to allergies. I don't know if you've seen media portrayals of people with allergies as whiny and impositions and an inconvenience. Now, I'm deathly allergic to nuts. I know, ironic. And I feel awkward about that sometimes, self-conscious about that. I don't like to bring it up because I don't want to be an inconvenience. But that's what you're seen as if you're different, if you require a little more sensitivity, a little more understanding. You're an inconvenient, you're trouble, you're chaos, you're a liability. You're all the things that ZeniMax and Bethesda said Leona was.
Yeah.
And if you've never been treated like an inconvenience, you may never see the pattern. But it is there. It's as evident as the fact you have to thank God for me. One thing I neglected to make clear, and Phoenix actually pointed it out while they were watching me do the video, is that any one situation that Leona has mentioned and that other trans people have mentioned in their lives, any one...
Sheep the Vampire in the chat says she's also right. Do you have any idea how hard it is to find vegan, vegetarian food for my vegetarian friends in the German public space? It's ridiculous. Ham is vegetables for people. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen this before, like in places where I've worked, where like if we're doing like a potluck or something like that, and you have somebody who's got an allergy or is vegan that works in the workplace, you have to be mindful of those things when you're bringing something to the potluck. I've definitely seen that before, and some people do really make a bigger deal of it than it needs to be. Like, oh man, why can't we just bring what we want? Or why can't we just have what we want? Like, why do we have to think about, why can't they just bring something for themselves? Like they really blow it up into something that it doesn't need to be. And it really does make those people feel inconvenient, which is not a good way to feel at all. It's never a good thing for people to make you feel like you're inconvenient just because you have some sort of special accommodation that you don't necessarily want to require those special accommodations, but you require them. And for people to make you feel shitty because of it, that's a really dumb and scummy thing to do.
One isolated situation can be taken as innocuous. It's the sum of the parts. It's the pattern. It's how all of these little things coalesce. It's not just one thing. It's never just one thing. Or even a few. Lots of little things that add up to a big thing, which, by the way, is how you can actually treat marginalised people well. Lots of little things, little acceptances. You do not have to rearrange your life. Just treating someone with kindness and understanding seems like it seems like an obvious thing to say. But
Absolutely.
People go overboard. But people go overboard with the way they treat marginalised people because they think that's what we expect. And it's not really. We want what everybody else wants. A simple fucking life. Starfield.
I think that's the craziest thing about it when you're dealing with like marginalized people is like, there are those people that feel like they have to give like special treatment to them. And it's not necessarily that you have to give them special treatment. They just want to be treated like everybody else. They just want to be treated like people. And I don't understand why for some people it's so difficult to just treat people like people, it's just something that's, for some reason, there's some people out there that have a really hard time doing that, whether it comes from a place of hatred or ignorance. I don't understand why that's so difficult. But in any case, chat, I really wanted to talk about this. Like I said, shout out to Demon Mama and Stephanie Sterling for their coverage on this situation. But I really wanted to talk about this because I truly feel like what happened to this poor woman is unacceptable. These are things that should not have happened in any workplace. But it's really unfortunate they had to deal with that. So shame on whoever that manager was that treated this woman this way, because it's not acceptable. It's a clear-cut case of discrimination, and it should not have happened. And hopefully, now that this is out there, moving forward, the folks at Bethesda will do a better job of handling these types of situations with the kind of care that they deserve.